Okay, now it's working. Now I need to do this and this. Okay, well. Okay. Just get out of here. Okie dokie days. We are. Yep, you can hear. You can see everything. Blah blah blah. Fantastisch. Fantastisch. Fantastique. Amazing. Oh yeah, let's go. Continuing Hasty Night version 1.4, chapters 1 and 2. We haven't even gotten through the first chapter last night, and we spent about almost 2 hours on it, so let's dive right in. That was lame. For a few moments he stood frozen outside the tent, merely appreciating the cool dusk breeze on his fur. A little bit of catch me up. It is. Wow. We had the intro guy that was really funny. We had the main character, Adder, who we've been hanging out with the entire time so far. Get woken up, then he was late, then he ran into a wall, met a pretty girl, ran through the wall after the pretty girl had to leave, got to work, another pretty girl, but he works for this one, and she is mute. And then they start doing work. They do work. It's very quiet, obviously. He leaves because somebody else said so kissed her already, and her dad got upset. Found the first pretty girl again. That looks like blood. That was in the box. Anyway, found the first pretty girl again, and we find out that he is a mind gazer. Damn it, I can't remember now. He can look into somebody's past by looking into their faces. So, a gaze reader, thank you. My friend Charlie is over here. I don't know if there. See a hand, and we watched my stream earlier, so he's up to date. So let's get in. Okay. By the time his thoughts began making any sense, he was already running home at full speed, crying disconsolately about the realization that he was, in fact, a horn eater. Oh. Wait right there. Stop reading immediately. Is this the end of the first chapter? And I stop reading immediately. Okay, no, I need you to continue. Never mind if you can read. Should you even? Is this a book for someone your age, Lynn? The sound is on the data. I mean, I'm not going there, but, you know. Well, I hope you don't know. I'd rather you stayed a tiny fuzzball that won't stop yelling and running all over the place. Hey, did I ever tell you about how Sis and Dad met? No.
Hey! If it ain't my lil boss! How you doing, ain't it? Having a mighty fine day?
It's not going anyplace good, I can tell you that much. But I should have let it go for, what, another 30 seconds? I'm sorry, Sandra. Oh my goodness. Huh?
What's going on?
So where I picked up was 30 seconds to the end of the first chapter. Like, if I had just let it go for 30 more seconds, it would have gone on to the next chapter, which then would be the best place to stop. But I'm a dunce. Anyway. Good catch up. Then this. Next. Aina looked at what little sky could be seen among the rooftops. The sun wasn't even out yet.
I know what you're thinking. Why is this fine buck loitering around the temple so early? Well, none of that. You had me so worried. So worried that I just had to come down and check up on you. And sure enough, here you are. And here I am. First again. Yep, I'm just killing it tonight.
Hush. Oh shoot, where's his scarf? That's right. No, it's not it. First in the contest of people acting suspiciously, that's for sure. But of course, Aina couldn't say a word about it. She signaled Adder to follow her into the forge, since he was already there. The workday would have to start early. Hi, how you doing? Yeah. Work at the forge went something like this. Aina worked on her craft, and then she gave Adder whatever menial task would make him feel useful. She didn't have any proper accreditation that named her a smith, so he wasn't technically her apprentice either, but that didn't really matter to either of them.
Rivet here, rivet there. And this weird one's going to my rivet collection.
There was something different in Adder that day. Something had changed. She could feel it.
Hey, boss. If you're all done staring at me, I'm gonna get back to work. Those shields won't rivet themselves.
How you doing, DJ? Hello? Are you still there? Or did you just come and say, smiley face, and leave? Lies. After hours upon hours of hard work, I guess, it was time for a break. Lunchtime. The most tranquil time of the day for both Adder and Aina. Hi. Truly riveting. Goodness gracious, Joe. You would make a great father, Joe. You got all the dad jokes. Not that either were ever under any real stress, mind you, but the predictability of lunchtime itself helped ease Aina's turbulent temperament and Adder's talkative stomach.
What have we got in store today, boss? Is it tater time? Is it tater time yet?
Oh, gosh. Throw the ball! Throw the ball! Adder had long since dubbed this short period away from the forge as potato time, since that was always the menu at Ches Aina.
Shayna.
Shayna. Aina. It's Aina.
You can't even say Shay.
Today was double potato time, since she'd forgotten to get him some food the day before. And she looks very upset about that.
Look at them taters! They're so tiny and cute! Oh boy, they look so freshly dug out, one of them still got dirt on it! Not a problem, boss. They're just...
He's in bed. Joe Snow Xander is my brother.
Ugh.
Oh. Now, that didn't sound like an adder sound. Oh. Did he just walk behind me?
Did these things always taste like this?
Oh, goodness. Made me look, Joe? Really? Adder tried his very best not to look absolutely disgusted as he turned the 20 or so tiny raw potatoes into puree with his pestle-like teeth.
Ah, what a wonderful scene! My favorite furry potato and temple turnip sharing a meal after their heartfelt reunion.
Illigrab's enormous face appeared next to the window. Adder, for once, didn't scream in panic.
You don't look so good, Adder. Don't tell me you stayed up all night looking for your sweetheart.
Good old Legrave. Sleep is for bucks that ain't got a lady waiting for 'em.
I feel like he's more sentimental.
There's no need to be so dramatic, lover boy. Ana's a grown-up. She knows when she wants some space. And it's your duty as an upstanding citizen to respect the wishes of a lady.
Yeah. Adder.
Or else.
Or else.
Your bribe is ready, you upstanding loverwort! Fine! It's a fine, not a bribe.
Adder cast his gaze down as Illigrab walked away, leaving him alone before Aina's judgment. Or he would have been judged if Aina hadn't turned 20 shades of red and become incapable of rational thought after Adder failed to deny that she was his sweetheart.
Hey, boss. I gotta get early today. I need to get back my, Goff's hat from the tavern. You know what they say, the hat makes the stag, and he ain't no one without it.
Huh?
Why can't he go get it like a grown-up? Well, that's cause he broke his leg. Gosh, no, it ain't broke, no ma'am. That dumbass just went and twisted his hoof the wrong way. Yep.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, bye, see you tomorrow.
He's a terrible liar.
Yep. Adder ran away, muttering something that sounded very much like prayers to himself. And so the days passed.
These are some lovely taters, boss. Perfect potatoes. But I couldn't fit one more bite in my tummy if I tried. No, ma'am.
Oh.
I'm just gonna take these home and stuff my face in front of Goff later. I ain't sharing a single one with him. Nope. No way I'm giving all them taters to him or anything. Yep.
Uh-oh. Aina was more than happy to collaborate in any plan that involved making life harder for the contestant to worst bard in Heirloom. But...
And that's when I told the king, bite me. You should have seen my father's face. His leaves dried right up. I spent a whole moon literally grounded.
He's a tree man.
What do you mean you don't remember who broke into the warehouse?
I don't know, Master. It's like the memory had vanished from my mind.
I'm gonna vanish you from existence!
Both deer began clashing horns while Adder and Eligrab stared at the scene.
Can you believe that?
I know! Can't deer go 10 minutes without starting a fight? No offense, kiddo.
No, I mean, can you believe he forgot someone that important just like that? Can people really forget?
Sorry, Adder, I don't have time to get into philosophical debates. Those two have just earned themselves a free ride to the dungeon.
The stroll took an unexpected direction towards the city guard's main tower in the northeastern corner of the inner walls. It was the second highest tower in the city, with ceilings tall enough that Eligrab could walk inside. Adder had to go fetch Geoff from there every so often, so he was relatively welcome as long as he had Eligrab by his side.
Take it to court next time. Street fights are strictly prohibited. Are we clear?
Both of the prisoners uttered a disheartened, "Yes, sir," and Eligrab nodded to himself.
Hey, Eligrab! I was wondering, you could throw anyone in the dungeon, right?
Well, I wouldn't say anyone, but I do have a pretty good grasp on Heirloom's populace, if I may say so myself. Hey, I could even set you up in a pretty setup if you ever want to leave the offsprings.
I'm all good. I was just wondering if you'd seen never mind.
A never mind? What's that, some kind of flower?
The prettiest in the kingdom.
I would love to have a flower called a Nevermind. And you would give it to people when you've told them something that you shouldn't have, or something that you want them to forget, and then it makes them forget. Magic. It's magic. That's what I'm going with. It's magic. Hey, it's magic. Yeah. I can totally see a Nevermind as being like a really pale blue, small flower that does bunches. Ooh.
Blue with the gray on the inside.
How is Aina hanging from the ceiling?
I am not going to answer that.
Clink, clink, clink. No, it was... she was hanging from the ceiling. Oh. Okay. I'll have to tell you later so that I'm not like trying to think of stuff in the middle of the stream. Clink, clink, clink went the hammer in Aina's forge, but there was another incessant noise. It sounded like the bellows that lit up the furnace. The bellows. Its source was, of course, Adder, looking out of the window, sighing like he wanted to empty his lungs. With his semi-nocturnal roommate, and what may can count among the 10 worst beds in the world. Dozing off, spacing out, or generally getting distracted in his job was nothing out of the ordinary for Adder. Sighing, however, that was definitely out of the norm. And he'd been doing that an awful lot lately. I think I may have left food on the stove. In a container. Could you possibly put it away from me? Sure. I'm sorry. He's been doing it an awful lot lately. She's worried. The look of oh no. Stranger yet, Adder hadn't noticed that Aina had been standing right behind him for quite a while now.
What? Huh?
Oh.
Hey, boss. I was just thinking about my things. You know, rivets and stuff. No worries, man. I got this. I'm all focused now.
Nice. Thunk, thunk, thunk went Adder's hammer, and yet Aina wouldn't leave his side.
Anything else?
Aina put a hand over Adder's in what may have been the most confusing gesture this side of Lake Tsila. Tsial. Zihal? Adder looked down at it rather blankly, only to find that he was holding the hammer by its head. Oh.
Wow, that's dumb even for me. You seen my brain lately, boss? I don't know where I left it.
And have the same face of this lame joke again.
Sorry, boss.
Clink, clink, clink went the hammers, and it wasn't reassuring at all.
Taters, huh? Sorry, boss. I'm not hungry today either.
Oh. In the great realm of Azakor, Akathor, where the very essence of reality was distorted to make flowers carry messages over the whole continent, and a single king had ruled since the gods fought wars in the skies. Adder not being hungry for a half moon didn't sound plausible at all.
All right. Ain't like I'm not hungry, Kay. It's just that... Look, boss, I don't mean no offense, but you ever tried one of these? I've eaten knuckles with more flavor in them. Nah, what am I saying? I know you wouldn't touch these with a stick. Your paw's sitting on a pile of Barhan gold. Who the heck wants taters when you can have figs and dates for supper every night? Am I right?
Oh boy. The merchant was filthy rich, and he would have indulged in such delicacies if he hadn't been too tired of his worldly life to bother chewing, and too cheap to buy actual food to fill the pantry. So Adder's meager allowance came from Aina's own, totally legit, unspecified source of income, which neither Eligrab nor Adder had probably ever thought about. But why this? Why now? When did Adder get so picky? He'd never had any problem eating the same stuff over and over before. He was thankful that he got to eat at all.
I guess it's time I learned my place. Stop drooling over all the fancy stuff I won't have again.
Where did he even get to try it in the first place? Restless, concerned, gods forbid, worried. These were all adjectives that clearly did not apply to Aina. But for some reason, she kept passing a tiny, ugly potato from hand to hand as she stared at the city from her home, thinking about the small fortune it had cost someone. Not her, but someone. You'd think that deer would have settled the capital in a beautiful prairie where they could graze free and indulge in hedonism, that the whole world looked something like the village Adder wouldn't shut up about. But no. A massive lack of foresight, coupled with achy cane stubbornness, and the insistence of their king led heirloom growing in the middle of a steppe between the enormous lake Sihal and the Alar Sea. There, okay. With barely any space for bush pens in the proximities, infertile fields, and a million souls to feed, food was neither cheap nor readily available in the capital, hogged by those that needed it the least. Anyway, point is that Adder was a poor starving deer and Aina wasn't willing to put up with this anymore.
Now the choice is to either
Find a cure or get him better food. Get him better food. Adder had been working incredibly hard all year long. Maybe all he needed was some sort of encouragement. And what better encouragement, than the one he'd asked for. But finding food in the city was absolutely out of the question. The moment it arrived, it was counted and measured, and Aina had calculated precisely how many potatoes she could acquire from each merchant before Ilagrab began glaring at her.
And now the challenge begins.
She'd have to make a little trip. Aina mentally went over the list of her favorite weapons as she trudged through the narrow alleys that composed the inner slums. Not because she was afraid, but because she was rather bored. The sun had just disappeared as Aina arrived at the gate of Karbasui, the northernmost entrance to Heirloom, and she soon left the walls behind. The grays, yellows, and whites of the city, and the browns of the outer slums, turned to deep orange, interrupted only by the occasional shrubs sleeping in burrows and crevices. The stars shone high above, watched by the washed-out orange mane of the moon that illuminated even the darkest night. It felt like the Yakain steppe was as monochrome as Aina herself was. Sounds so pretty. The sound of distant laughter pulled Aina out of her thoughts. She crouched down and hid behind a rock, examining the distance. A small congregation of merchants was sitting on straw mats by a bonfire. Their fur went from light brown to pitch black, and their bodies were thin, with bigger palmed horns. Fallow deer from the north. Their huge grave pines. Okay. They're huge grave pines, the biggest tree of burden one could find in Akathor, slept behind them, basking in the firelight as they breathed puffs of fresh air and warmed their leaves. Their wares were unloaded around the bonfire: carrots, apples, pears, salt rock, honey. Aina stepped out from behind a rock, walking decidedly towards the group. The merchants all turned toward her, jumping to their feet immediately. Aina held on to her hammer, letting its handle bounce on her left hand. They all knew what came next. Yeah, she's definitely a doe with teeth like that. One of them raised a hand, stopping Aina in her tracks. She walked closer to the fire, revealing a face Aina was most unused to, and horns that would have exterminated whatever remained of Adder's self-esteem.
Tasakirmat is a strange hour for boy of walk steep. More strange of walk
Steep.
with big hammer. Build house? Need help?
Aina stood in the spot, clinging to her hammer. The brutish, almost savage-looking woman had a reassuring look on her face. Yeah, Aina dresses in a way that makes her seem androgynous or more masculine. The merchants looked at each other and then at the woman, speaking in a language that Aina failed to recognize, but that sounded very close to speaking Basaktet, with a hot potato in one's mouth. One hurriedly uttered the word robbery. Another whispered the word golem, ambush, danger. The strange woman just shook her head.
Is cold boy? Is fire tea you want? We help. Food is of wind, but fire is of sun. Tea is of friend. Sit with we is welcome. Weapon not.
Aina stepped a bit closer to the fire, revealing herself. She let her hammer fall by her side quite dramatically, and stood proudly in front of them. The merchants nearly fell back at the sight of her teeth. Even the woman gulped audibly.
Is a strange girl? Boy? Sorry, I don't know. Angry at someone. Angry at I, please. No, basit upset.
I'm gonna turn this up because I can't hear very well. Fall of bad, assumed Aina, switching back to her native tongue even though it only sounded somewhat similar and made no sense whatsoever. Aina cast a long glance over the group. Just a bunch of deer and some kind of overgrown gazelle asking nicely to be left alone. They weren't worth her time. Aina picked up her hammer and made to leave.
Iruk, ward your path home, stranger.
Hirub. What a joke. A marine breeze blew over the streets of Heirloom the next day, sweeping away some of the hot, steep dust that suffocated the city. Akathor was 2 moons well into the dawn-soon already, and it was coming to an end little by little. It was lunchtime, and Aina couldn't stop thinking about the previous night. She still couldn't understand why she couldn't bring herself to merely grab their wares and leave as usual. Maybe they weren't good enough, and that was her merchant instinct talking, yeah? No. For some reason, she could only think of Adder chiding her and giving her a disappointed look. So, if he didn't want the usual, that was totally his fault. Carrying a small mountain of uncooked, misshapen potatoes, dried seaweed, and several bulbous roots, Aina made her way through the corridor of her home in search of her apprentice. A cloud or two could be seen in the big blue sky, white and puffy, off to conduct whatever business a cloud has so close to their home, to her own, the once great Temple of Hirub, the abandoned residence of a god that left in a tantrum after the Barhan rebellion. Not the most elegant farewell, but her father always said that God needs no manners, and that old geezer clearly knew all about that. The lack of manners, I mean. He knew a thing or two about gods as well, but he much preferred to spend his time cursing them for his longevity. Oh, there he went with his usual friends.
Burn the sippy! This time we'll get him for good!
Goodness, a mob doe.
Aina! Second-class daughter of a hero praying beast! Quit whiffle-waffling and do something about this! I know you're somewhere around here, you fusty lugs! Aina!
I really don't like him.
Oh no! He's casting some kind of spell! Hurry up!
Aina just stared idly at the mob carrying her father away, off to a pyre that would forever magically fail to end the poor man's life. A question resurfaced in Aina's mind. It was Adder's pondering aloud whether Aina's father was hated a little more or a little less for purchasing and desecrating the temple of a god that most people despised anyway. Yes? Okay, I'm back. She took a moment to consider this as she walked into the sunlight. Sacrilege is a kind of a global standard, I suppose. Cue Adder, moping all by himself in the courtyard. Ada tensed up her shoulders and stretched out the food plate, attempting to pass the dish as something casual that she didn't go out of her way and spent her personal earnings to buy. Nice little effect of tensed up her shoulders, stretched out catch it all. Once more, instead of happily proceeding to choke on his payment for helping out in the forge, Adder took a long, empty look at the food. He sighed and looked away.
Sorry, boss. I'm not hungry.
Yeah, that tosto. So he'd said time and again during the last few moons, but Adder had always ended up giving up and eating. Less and less every time, however. Aina waited patiently to no avail. Once she got tired of that, she shook a carrot in front of his face, hoping to stir his curiosity with this new, shocking ingredient. No answer. So there she was, shaking a rattle in front of a giant one-eyed baby that refused to eat. Seeing that diplomacy didn't work, she poked his snout with said carrot. She poked and poked until it ended up his nose.
You happy now?
Oh man, I wasn't expecting that. Oh. Aina's total desperation was purposefully ignored by Adder, so poor Carrot was snapped in two for his sins. It was at this point that Aina realized she didn't much care about why he wasn't eating. All she knew was that the deer had to eat, and he hadn't done so in a while. With the delicacy her hands could muster, she opened his jaw and smashed a raw potato right into its mouth. But something was wrong. He didn't overreact. He didn't attempt to talk his potato in mouth dialect. He just grabbed the tuber and handed it back to Aina.
If you like them taters so much, why don't you eat them?
Oh.
And now you're growling at me? What's your deal?
Oh. Oh. Her deal? But he was the one acting strange. She was just trying to help and he still hadn't eaten a single thing.
I don't want your darn potatoes, Aina! Just leave me alone!
No, I think I chose the wrong option when I went and chose the, I should have chose cured. I hope not. Oh, I hope I didn't mess up. Aina hesitated for a moment. A moment longer and her fists would have given quite a speech. She turned around and angrily stormed off. That'd teach her to think about anyone other than herself. Dang it. I might have to do a couple of playthroughs of this just so that I can choose the right choose. Aina marched towards one of her usual hideouts atop the rundown temple walls, away from Adder's sight. She needn't run that far. He wasn't going to pursue her this time. Alone with one of her potatoes and all of her weapons, Aina began rummaging through her pockets in search of a knife. There was never a lack of those on her person. She brought out one of her trusty daggers and focused all of her attention on cutting the potato into thinner and thinner slices. She wasn't wrong. There was no way she was. She was older and wiser, and Adder was just being an idiot by refusing her help. Of course!
Hiding from the mob, little Tess?
God damn it! Giant tree man! Replying to Ilograb wasn't precisely on Aina's list of priorities for the day. Ilograb didn't expect otherwise.
Don't worry, I took care of them. No need to thank me, of course.
Thank you, All Might.
Wouldn't kill you, though. Anyway, all that's left is putting out the fire. So, I was hoping Adder could give me a hand there. Where is the lab?
That was another question that didn't deserve an answer. Aina devoted her whole being to gathering all the extra thin potato slices and then launched them into the air, watching them fly around like some tremendously wasteful confetti.
Did you two get in a fight?
Oh. Oh. Aina led Ilograb to the courtyard. There were a peevish adder sat by the fountain. He was rubbing his face as he stared at all the food by his side.
He hasn't come back to his senses yet, huh? Hey, think it's your father's fault? I mean, I could leave him a little longer on the pyre to see if he learns his lesson.
Don't you dare, you son of a wilted bear!
Don't you dare, you son of a wilted bear. Meat face.
I'll make a wardrobe out of you!
Oh, bless your ears, Red.
Aina shook her head, frustrated. The merchant hadn't said anything meaner than usual, and even if he had, Adder and Aina formed an unbreakable team. Nothing could harm them when they were together. They looked in Adder's direction once more. I won't pretend I've ever understood how Adder's mind works.
You two worrywarts were made for each other.
He was doing cartwheels? Aina's face turned red immediately. The legendary Morose Smith would rather admit to any criminal charges against her, rather than let on that she was actually concerned about anyone's well-being. Ilograb smiled and stepped forward before she had a chance to protest. However,
Let me have this. Ahem. Addison, son of Gerbass of the Upperfield, you're under arrest!
Oh, three, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I knew that it was against the law, but I couldn't just go tell Arter. Please don't kill me.
For worrying a precious little bee, like...
oh no, he just snitched on himself.
Aina, sweetie, give us a minute. Adder, my favorite Canthurian refugee. Why would the only law-abiding deer in Slander District ever beg for his life? Did Geoff talk you into conning someone? Someone called Talid, perhaps?
No, thank you. All the gold in my socks are on ain't worth a word with that sicko. Don't tell him I said that.
Well, That rules the most serious possibility out, which leaves us with a scared buck and a seat. And you know that I'm only second to Ada when it comes to both. Start talking.
All right. If I'm gonna die, at least let me die an honest book. I met this girl and she booped me and I got so nervous that I ran away, but then we met again and it turned out we kind of knew each other because I tried to save her once. Things got kind of heated up between us and, what we did that night? Oh boy, that can't be legal.
Oh! Say no more. So, you shed your antlers. That's no big deal. And most certainly not a crime. Though you know, fawns happen. You do know about that, right? Adder, I love you like a son, but please don't make me take on your father's actual educational duties.
I know where fawns come from. That ain't...
Good, good. Then what could... Oh, of course. I should have known from the very first moment.
The fawns in the trees. The birds and the bees. Nah, it's the fawns in the trees. Adder's eyes lit up slightly. Illigrab let a heavy hand fall on the buck's shoulder as he took a deep breath. Are you thinking that he's sleeping with a married person?
No matter how guilty you feel, cheating is not a crime.
Oh, now you think he cheated on Aina.
Say what?
I want you to know that I don't approve of what you've done, but I'm sure Aina will understand if you talk to her.
I'd never cheat on Aina. I'd have to be courting her for that anyway.
Not?
Of course not. My boss is the strongest and the coolest and cute as a bug to boot. Ain't nobody good enough in this world to court Aina, much less me.
Aww.
I could never find me a doe like her.
Aww.
But kid, she's not a...
If a tree falls in a temple and there are 3 people to hear it, including the tree itself, doesn't make a sound! Oh, crap. Sandra, you're gonna kill me. Oh. God. Okay, just a little lightheaded. Crap. Okay. 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 Crap. This is not entertaining. I can't do this. Okay, I got it. The answer is yes. He says, don't. For the answer is yes. He says timber. He's yelling timber. Oh.
All right, kiddo. That's the end of the talk. Why don't you go back to sulking in the corner or something?
Illigrab laughed awkwardly as Aina dragged him away.
You're lucky I can't have you arrested, you unruly little beast. Yeah, of course. Mock your biggest ally. Excuse me. That wasn't on purpose. I swear.
Mainly because he's huge.
Your greatest ally! I was just trying to help you. Forget that stupid argument. I thought I told you to tell him the truth already.
Oh. That you like him.
Don't play the mute card with me. There's a million ways you could tell him. That boy's blinder than Pertok, but he'll find out sooner or later that you're lying to him. You want to wait till Eka is here? How do you think he'll react then?
Oh.
Aina, we aren't like him. Like them. I know you care a lot about him, and so do I. I love the both of you. But keeping up the charade for so long is only gonna make the truth harder than it should be. Dear, have a life. And we're a part of it, of course, but there are just some things that we can never give them. Things they need in their short time on Dakna, no matter how much we love them. Adder is no exception to that rule. He's beginning to realize that you're not the son of his life, Aina. Take the whole night business out, and what do you have? He's just a boy with down-to-earth concerns. He wants a farm. He wants a family. He will move on one day and find those things. And we should be happy for him. Do you understand?
There were some concepts that Aina was actually acutely aware of, even if she herself hadn't realized that. How painfully small her influence could be on anyone's life was one of them. A few moments went by in complete silence as she contemplated the faces that had left her behind already. She had always been all too eager to forget how rare company had been through her existence. Bearing the weight of such a thought, she finally nodded with her head low. Illigrab's mustache turned down as his eyebrows rose. A million worried creases formed where his forehead should be.
Great! Then do me a favor and take him somewhere nice tonight.
Huh?
You have to make sure to have fun together while you can. So go make up with him. Take him out tonight. Who knows? Maybe he'll loosen up and tell you what's going on after a few drinks. It's time to let him in or let him go. So you two better be smooshing faces together by the end of the night, okay? That's a royal order.
Aww, so cute. In an incredible display of dexterity, Illigrab managed to produce a giant tree deer's handful, of Dorus from a bag on his belt, which he handed to a very flustered Aina as discreetly as he could. Satisfied with his act of generosity, he took a long glance around the forge, finally stopping to stare at the embers resting at the bottom of the furnace.
And you can think of that as a tip. You know, so you can get to work on my order a bit faster.
Oh, goodness. Aina looked at Illigrab straight in the eye. Not restless, not calm. Even more silently than usual. She stretched out the hand holding the coins toward him.
Fair enough. I should know better than to try to bribe a Tess. You guys are a prideful bunch. But hey, keep the money. I'm sure Adder could use a little, in the right.
Are you going to help me down or what?
She's still up in the fire! Oh my gosh!
Red, I swear I'd let the mobs have their way with you if it wouldn't make your daughter sad.
I'd like to see you try!
Oh, I'm sure you would. He's right, though. I shouldn't leave him hanging like that. Good luck, Aina.
Free from the chains of unwanted social interaction, Aina silently pondered Ilograb's words as she headed back to Adder's side. The used-to-be sacred flat pools in the public courtyard now served as a magnificent dish and a laundry washing station. Adder's particularly, since he was in charge of these chores. At the end of the day, on her oh-so-urgent chores... What? At the end of the day, any of her oh-so-urgent chores were just another excuse to keep Adder around. Oh. He purposefully looked the other way. Of course he didn't want to talk to her. The irony of getting blatantly ignored by the clingiest deer in Dakna wasn't lost on Aina. A painful punishment, if there was one. An apology was something to be rarely expected from the smith. Not because she failed to see the faults in her actions, but because she didn't know how to apologize. No, that was just an excuse. Adder always knew when Aina felt guilty about anything. Then again, why did she have to apologize when it was him who failed to appreciate her efforts? She would have continued patting her own back and telling herself how right she was, if she hadn't noticed that the food wasn't nowhere to be seen.
Yeah?
Aina carefully removed Adder's hands from the brass dish that he'd been polishing over and over.
It's not clean yet. There's some red spot that just won't get.
An incredible feat, considering that he'd been washing that same dish since her conversation with Ilograb started. The dish had been cleaned with such dedication that she could see her reflection in it. Aina stared at the dish, then at Adder. Back at the dish. Look at the dish. Now look at the... I don't know. Something over there. Back to me. I'm no longer sitting in my chair. Wait, yes I am. But that's fine. Because this is an Old Spice commercial. Oh my god! It's like the red spot! Oh god! Then back at her again. Once satisfied with her observations, she whacked at her snout with the flat side of the dish in a manner she considered softly. But I'm sure many people may have considered that hard.
What is it now?
Smirking in the most annoying fashion possible, she shoved the dish on Adder's face.
Yeah, there it is. Just let me clean that darn dish.
Aina turned the dish around once more just to make sure she was right. There was no spot to be seen. Seeing that her first idea didn't yield any results, Aina decided that some better strategic positioning was in order.
Hey, wait! Don't go walking into the pool! You're gonna make a...
Ignoring the way her boots were getting soaked and how questionable her repositioning was, Aina sat down in the gap left between Adder's legs and the pool. Oh. She held the dish out as far as she could and then tapped it on its surface, attempting to call Adder's attention to it once more. He had to regain a bit of composure first.
Can't you see the spot? It's there, right next to your face.
A brief lapse of clarity came about as Adder's sight traveled towards a red blur on the brass dish, right where his right eye should have been.
And I'm done. Big surprise.
They agreed on that. A tranquil silence followed Adder's epiphany. A moment of reflection. She's still sitting between his legs. Aina looked up at Adder with her big lilac eyes, hoping to tug at his heartstrings in lieu of an apology. Some would call that kind of purposefully cute look manipulative. Some people would get their asses kicked.
Well, darn, boss. I may not be all that used to the eye thing just yet, but I don't really need two eyes to see when you're trying to play me.
Oh. Aina patted Adder's enormous arms as patronizingly as she could, ruffling the fur that covered them. It seemed none of them would exactly apologize for what happened. So of course, they went back to playing with the dish like the big children they were.
Who the hell's that gnarled leafless palm tree? That ain't me. There just ain't no way that's my face. Where'd my cheeks go? No wonder I don't recognize myself.
Oh wow, I wonder if it's been a while since he's seen his reflection.
Hold up. How did she even manage to recognize me then? Was that magic too?
Aina had no idea who she was or what magic he was talking about. There was only one gigantic one-eyed roe deer with shovels for hands in the whole city. Adder pushed the dish away, fixing his gaze further on the fountain, where a statue stood mutilated and bereft of the glory it had ages back.
Curses. Ain't no way I could forget someone like that, twat.
Knowing full well that he wasn't talking to her, Aina continued to running her bandaged fingers along his fur absent-mindedly, somewhat concerned about his sudden interest for the son of the sun. She could only guess why he wasn't talking to a statue. Why he was talking to a statue. Then again, didn't that hold true for everything? Did she actually understand a single thing Adder did or said? Could she even? Adder told her a million things since they met. She didn't care. They did not affect her in the slightest. And yet, he kept pouring his heart out to her, and she kept ignoring him, like some sort of tug of war for lonely idiots. So why did the thought of not understanding him distress her so much now, when she hadn't made a single effort to do so in the time they had known each other? In the time they had known each other, Illigrab's words resonated within her, making her feel a guilt she usually quieted with violence.
You know, I've been thinking a whole darn lot about the past lately, boss.
Ada's torn up ears perked up. What were the chances of those two thinking the same thing? Ada smiled ever so slightly, giving her his trademark, "Here's a story you don't want to miss." Look.
Do you remember the day we met?
What a question.
Hey, don't you at me, Missy. Imagine you just walked into the city thinking this is finally your day. You make a friend, he's gonna get you a job, and then you turn around a corner and stumble upon a grandpa on fire!
Nothing strange as far as Aina was concerned.
Do me a favor and make like your idea of weird and mine sort of match for a minute, boss. As I was saying, my pa raised a good boy, and a good boy don't let grandpas fry on a pyre. So I rush into the temple, ready to end the one life I got to save his.
What Eder didn't know is that Aina had been looking down on the scene from her window, giving her quite a more accurate retelling of the events.
But no matter how hard I try, the fire's just too strong for me. There's nothing a poor buck like me can do.
Oh boy.
With his last breath, the old man calls for his daughter, and he hollers until... Whoa! The prettiest girl I've seen in my life walks right out of the gate!
Aina made a conscious effort not to giggle. To be fair, half the female population that Adder met was the prettiest girl he'd seen in his life.
And as she makes her way through the crowd, she looks at me! At me! Of all the people!
Of course, she was looking at him. He was screaming louder than the man on the pyre.
She gets closer and closer. And then, the little thing just signs us to get eaten by a beast and walks away like it's got nothing to do with her. Wonder who that gal was, huh?
He pokes Aina's cheek, and she slapped his hand away as solemnly as she could. He was one to talk about first impressions. Shaggy, chubby, badly patched up and wearing a ridiculous vest. That's how she remembered the adder that first appeared in their gate, screaming in fear as usual. Once upon a time, there had been muscle and even fat on Adder's arms. All that remained to attest his gigantism were a pair of oversized hands and clothes that had been mended beyond recognition. Indeed, he was once a boy with a tender scar on his face, yelling from the rooftops that he fully intended to become a knight. But dreams aren't edible, are they?
I gotta say, this year's been kicking my ass real bad. But I'm still alive and in one piece. I guess I got good health at least. No thanks to your horn-shattering, teeth-breaking, nose-bending punches.
Oh, jeez.
But you're the one person I can always count on, boss. I trust you with my life.
That was just a very adderish exaggeration, of course. They had only been friends since the last bleak night, at least the way she saw it. There was no way he trusted her that much already. Then again, Adder would have probably argued that they had been friends since he arrived with the first bloom of flower scents, and that he would have died for her since the moment he saw her.
And it ain't just you. I can't imagine leaving Mr. Bard's home. Or not going on walks with Eligrab. Even the patron. Gods, I never thought I'd find something like this when I left the fort. I was just dying to go back.
Adder shut up all of a sudden. Aina was surprised he'd managed to speak half a sentence about his draft. There went another issue he never talked about. Both Adder and Aina turned their eyes to the reflection once more. The image on the dish offered no good answer to the questions either of them had. It just talked about the outcome of their decisions. Aina shifted the dish a little until she was no longer in the picture. That's where she belonged. No.
Now, you really gotta quit sneaking around, boss.
Putting his hands just above hers, Adder turned the dish so she would be back in the reflection. She turned her face up towards his, confused.
Eligrab's words got to you, right?
Still observing Adder's snout in such a weird angle, she nodded. He had been a lot more vigilant than what she had originally thought, but he had decided to remain silent about it all the same. From such a low angle, his still faunish and round face looked even mature. Now, that was a stretch. She knew that mature was probably one of the last adjectives that would ever be associated with him. But, for just a moment, she felt like he wasn't a dumb kid who would get lost if she let go of him anymore.
Please, oh please tell me you didn't believe it, man. He got it all wrong. I ain't no cheater. I never once said I was courting you, I swear.
It was just a moment, as I said. Aina quietly considered the question. But not before headbutting his chest for that tell, of course. No matter what was troubling Adder, it obviously wasn't her business. She didn't like it when he pried into her life. It was only fair she'd return the favor and let him be. Aina took a long glance at the stag's jaw, letting her mind wander. She always kept him at an arm's length, effectively speaking. She feared what Adder would find if he looked closer. But in moments of true hardship, Aina knew just what to do to cheer him up. No money or alcohol required. Effortlessly, she grabbed onto his arms and brought them around her waist, pulling him into what could only count as a half hug. Adder embraced her as strongly as he could, moved by this gesture. Any other person's spine would have probably crumbled under the weight of Adder's chest, but not Aina's. No.
Boss! I can't believe Eligrab had the nuts to go and say such a thing. What kind of buck does he think I am? He knows how much you mean to me. I'd never ever hurt you like that.
Aw. Aina sighed contentedly to herself, laughing about her previous considerations about him looking like an adult. Adder was as caring, vulnerable, and predictable as the day she met him. That hadn't changed at all. She didn't want him to change at all. Change was scary, an adder an oddity, in a world that shunned her. She wanted him safe and sound by her side. How could that ever be a bad thing? She didn't need an answer. It was now time for Aina to go back to sulking and for Adder to feel bad, thinking that it was due to what Eligrab said.
They got it all wrong. Eligrab, Mr. Bard, the patron. I know they want to help, but all them city folks think they know better than Shorthorns over yonder. He don't ever get to finish talking, because they already know what a dumb fawn's gonna say. You got any idea how gosh darn friggin' annoying that is?
Aina rolled her eyes back. Ask the mute girl if she knows anything about not getting to chip in. Wow, Adder.
I ain't no fawn. I've been a farmer, and a water seller, and a watchman, and a soldier. I had a life before I met him, and I have one now too, but I just don't want to tell them about it. They wouldn't understand.
Oh, but they would.
And what if I just don't want to talk? What if I'm tired of everyone thinking I'm a hick and that's it? It ain't the end of the world, right? Right?
Adder looked at Aina pleadingly with big, glassy eye on the verge of tears. The smith couldn't even bring herself to give him the sarcasm he deserved. Aina nodded patiently, giving him a lazy, derisive pat on his cheek. She found that almost relatable. With a loud sigh full of resignation, frustration, and just a hint of relief, Adder rested his chin on Aina's head, letting his surge of honesty suddenly vanish.
Woo! Feels good to get that off my chest. Once more, does and stags, the only one that gets it is Aina the Smith. I'm sorry for all the grief I've given you, boss. I should have talked to you sooner.
Indeed, he should have, but she was gracious enough not to remark it. Aina let him know that she still expected an explanation with a single look, and Adder's cheeks jumped a little as he looked away, smiling as coyly as his giant teeth would let him. And here came the part where he poured his heart out to the beautiful maiden by his side, and their relationship was strengthened even further.
Boss, you know that I know there ain't nobody in the whole of Akathor that'll keep a secret safer than you.
No. One, that's really rude, but... Oh no.
But that still don't mean you get to hear about it.
Yeah, he's gonna tell her about the other her. That's what I thought. And then, oh my gosh.
Huh?
Oh. Time to roll out the barrels.
Well, ma'am, I think I'm all talked out for today. I should get going now. Mr. Bard's playing tonight, and someone's got to make sure he don't drink our money. See you tomorrow.
Adder headed off to the arc that led to Slander District. A set of steps started walking behind him.
Boss? Ha! Gotcha. Did I forget something?
Aina pointed at Adder, and then at herself.
You want to come along? I don't know, boss. It's, a stag night. We're gonna drink ourselves silly, and then we're gonna talk about does. Woo! Yeah.
Geoff talking about does? Now there's the biggest piece of fiction ever written. Needless to say, Aina remained very much unconvinced.
What about your pa? He's gonna be madder than a hornet when he hears you're out drinking with me again.
Again. The merchant was essentially mad every fraction of a second he spent alive. That wasn't a deterrent under any circumstances.
Let me make this a bit easier for you. Do you remember the last time we went to a tavern together, boss? You know, when you threw Mr. Bard out a window, and then you just ran after him and left me alone to...
Oh.
Hold up. Don't tell me that was the day she...
Whatever story Adder was about to tell disappeared completely from his mind. He bit the claw on his thumb, babbling to himself with that strange accent of his. Her boots didn't even make a sound as she shyly walked towards Adder. She grabbed his hand with her comparatively tiny fingers and looked up, awaiting a response. Comparatively tiny, but she can lift way more than him. Followed by all that sound.
Darn it, boss, don't cry, please. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you wanted to come along so bad. You could come down with us any day. And if Mr. Bard got anything to say about that, I'll take care of him.
Oh my goodness. Was she throwing a fit? She was throwing a hissy fit. But I want to go. Right? Yeah, and he flipped over faster than a flip-flop. I don't know. Ana's lip trembled as she struggled to keep a smirk away from her face. Ah, she threw a hissy fit. She threw a hissy fit just to get him to be like, okay, yeah. And he rolled. Oh, goodness.
Not so fast, ma'am. You gotta swear over by tie that your butt and the seat are gonna be one and the same. Because if I see you throw a single punch, or a kick, or God's forbid a stab, I ain't ever taking you with me again. I don't want another buck slamming a chair against my noggin. Got it?
Suspicious glares and mutters accompanied Aina and Adder all the way through Slander District until they ended up in their usual tavern. Or rather, the closest thing to a tavern one could find there. The Lucky Bastard. So called in honor of the owner's late husband, who was struck dead by a lightning bolt after walking out of a gambling house. The three were clearly mad at him. Yeah. Though not quite as much as his wife. She'd surely made peace with the memory of him after finding his secret earnings and opening the tavern. Nice. If that doesn't give you a clear idea of the type of gents that frequented the establishment, suffice to say that they let Geoff play in it. Adder peeked in, looking with apprehension at the few deer scattered across the tavern. Anyone capable of ignoring the aberrations Geoff played probably deserved to be there. A quick look back at Aina revealed her eagerness to quiet Geoff using her fists. She noticed Adder's expression and quickly put her hands behind her back.
Hey now! You promised you'd be quiet. You swore over by top. He's gonna smite you to death.
Aina took a hand to her forehead and pretended to swoon. She actually miscalculated and fell on her butt. Smitten indeed. Or was she smitten? Thingy.
I ain't joking around, boss. This is the one place in the district that still lets Mr. Bard play. I can't get in trouble here. I can't do that to Geoff again, okay?
Geoff, not Geoff. Geoff.
Do it for me?
Oh. Red. Fine. And there went Aina's plan for the night. We're gonna go in. I'm gonna start a bar fight. You're never gonna be able to come back. Oh, this This is awesome. Everyone turned towards the duo as they walked into the bar, with faces that went from awe to ire. The barkeep, upon noticing Adder, quickly rushed to his side.
There you are, Adder. Just the man I wanted to stab today. Go tell that asshat friend of yours to tune that stupid piece of...
Ana's eyes met the barkeep's. She paled. Ana smiled. Though Adder would have you believe otherwise, Ana's storming off was hardly an uncommon event. It was in fact how most of her arguments with her father ended up, since she could not quite defend her own causes. Some strange events tended to occur concurrently. One night, an enormous hole appeared in one of the city walls. One day, the sun rose to reveal that Baitot's statue was missing its 2-story tall sword. Most recently, someone removed all the pavement from the northeastern quarter of the central plaza. An extremely sharp dagger was the only clue the thief left behind. But of course, Adder didn't believe that his beloved boss had anything to do with any form of nocturnal vandalism.
Wait, what, you,
Oh, right. Boss, this is the prettiest barkeep in town, Miss Barkeep. Miss Barkeep, this is the prettiest smith in town, my boss, Ana.
Age, old enough to drink in this tavern, Miss Barkeep. Adder, long neck, short horns. Or Adder, shovel hands. Sometimes shoofers. Oh gosh, he looks like, does look, okay. Wait, hold on. Characters, lore, oh my goodness. Locations, dictionary, galley. Oh, cool. Oh, I haven't gotten... Okay, I don't think I've gotten there yet. Okay. A bit too strong? Yeah. I think next time I play this, I'm going to start by looking through the encyclopedia.
Ana?
Ana tilted her head up slightly to let Adder pat her head affectionately. Still in such a cute position, she turned her eyes towards the barkeep in a killing glare.
Ana, of course. I didn't know it was like that. Give me just a... You bunch of twats better get your asses out of this place immediately! These two want some space!
Oh no, did he empty the There was no answer to the barkeep's order. Ana reached for the hammer on her back.
There's no need for that, ma'am. We're just trying to fit in a corner or something.
Adder took a deep breath as Ana placed the hammer back on her belt, sending just one last look of disappointment his way. Goff's barely cohesive poetry became clearer as they reached the back of the tavern, though the bard seemed too occupied with his performance to notice them yet. They managed to find an empty space where they could barely fit together, though their designated room on the floor became considerably bigger after Ana curled her lips at the deer around them.
Well, that sure was a thing. She never called anyone a twat for me before. You know the barkeep, boss?
No. Nope. No way. She had to be confusing Ana for some other green-haired albino that wandered from tavern to tavern once a moon, demanding a little tip in exchange for not raising the place to the ground. Easy mistake. Once seated, Ana called the barkeep with a deep, menacing growl. She rushed to their side immediately.
Yes, miss?
Ana pointed to a cup and raised 2 fingers. The barkeep clearly didn't need a translation, but Ana's request didn't seem to cheer Adder up, as it should have.
Make that just one, ma'am. I ain't got enough money. And I don't feel like drinking anyway.
but Aina felt like making him drink, of course. She brought out a shiny Duro from Ilagrab's gift, pointed to herself, and then to Adder.
Oh, that's mighty kind of you, boss. But really, I don't wanna. I said no thanks.
Aina tried to push 2 coins into the barkeep's hand, while Adder tried to pull her hand away quite fruitlessly.
Aina! What did I say earlier about trying to know what's best for me, huh? I don't always gotta get naked to have fun, alright?
What? Why does... What? What does naked have to do with it? Is he snitching on himself again? Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't always gotta get naked to have fun, alright? Oh no.
Huh?
Oh, he did. Oh no, Aina. The barkeep's like, what? No. Both Aina and the barkeep looked at each other, then looked at Adder as he pursed his lips together.
Get drunk? I mean, I don't gotta get drunk. What do you know? I think I kinda do need a drink.
I'm gonna cry. Like, that's sad. No.
Get me drunk, please. I don't want to think about being naked now.
Adder was already bringing himself enough shame, so Aina kindly overpaid the barkeep in a desperate action to make her go away. Once the barkeep had left, she took one of Adder's hands and pulled it away from his eyes, trying to take a good look at his face. She would have had better luck looking for faces in the mold-covered walls.
Doth mine ears deceive me, or is that the tinkling of coins I hear?
Go away, Gyoff. None other than Gyoff finally turned towards them with a very calculated nonchalantness, plucking the strings of his perpetually out-of-tune ode. Aina pulled her ears down and sighed audibly.
Goodness gracious! If it isn't Ladder, accompanied by the petite patroness no less, of all the miserable taverns in this loathsome city.
They both knew that Gyoff had been expecting Adder and had clearly seen them walk in. But why say hi like a normal person?
Evening, Mr. Bard.
I know what time of the day it is, thank you very much. I'm painfully sober yet. Or at least sober enough to recognize a moon in the sky, and a lad eaten up by his misgivings when I see one.
Oh, goodness.
Aina, what did you tell Adder to make him wail like that?
Oh, I should go punch him.
Oh, woe is me. So young and I'm turning hard of hearing. Speak up, dearie.
Oh, you're an ass. Aina's teeth gritted one against the other loud enough for Adder to hear. Oh, they exchanged a very serious look. One that said, don't. This game is called... I'm sorry, I know it says Destiny, but this game isn't an option, and I was trying to find like a just chatting sort of thing. But this game is called The Hayseed Knight. It is kind of in a pre-alpha sort of thing right now. And it's made pretty much exclusively, minus like some voices, by somebody who goes by the handle of Sandra MJ Dev on Twitter. And I played about an hour, 2 hours of it last night. Got through the first chapter, which I found out at the beginning of tonight. It's really good. I really like it. It says don't. A series of strangely precise grunts and gestures followed one another under the expectant attention of the bard. Afterward, they both looked at Adder until he finally relented.
She wants you to keel over and die.
Why? Is she too lazy to kill me herself? It was a question, not an invitation. But of course, that kind of subtlety doesn't fare so well around the likes of you.
Oh, goodness. Aina was considering how to best break Giof's snout in a single strike, but Adder fulminated the bard with a look before Aina had so much a chance to grunt.
Ah! Cut me with the sword if thou must, but wound me not with the knives in thine eyes! Not you, Cabbage Head. I know you'll do both gladly.
Hey, quit picking on her.
Picking on her? Goading her a little counts as a provocation now? 'Tis but a jest between old friends. Very old friends. Aina knows it, doesn't she? Doesn't she?
Oh boy.
I said quit that, Bard.
Me? She's the one that casually throws people out of windows.
Oh yeah, she threw him out of a window last time.
That's because y'all make her mad.
Guards! Guards! Yes, see, my friend broke a buck's spine, but that's okay because she was mad!
Perfectly acceptable. Adder was about to reply, but the barkeep finally arrived with 2 cups filled to the top where she surely hadn't spit at all.
Ah, just the thing to keep me goading.
Get out of here, Gioff. You're a dick. Gioff grabbed one of the drinks before Aina had a chance to grab hers. She rose up from her seat, livid.
Hold up, boss. Don't go breaking promises so soon. I'll pay you back for that one. Here, you can have mine instead.
Aina took a brief look at the edge of the cup. It was covered with foam, which meant that Adder had taken a sip, which meant that his lips had been there, which meant...
No, she can't have that one either. Aina's not old enough to drink. At least formally, And she's never getting older.
Huh. Indirect kiss, exactly. Sorry, I've got Twitch and Mixer up on a same thing. I'm using OBS and it's going to restream. Huh. Maybe she is a vampire deer. I don't know. Just as Gioff was about to drink from his cup, Aina snatched her drink back. She gulped the beer down.
I'd say I hope you choke on it, but you can't even do that.
Aina proceeded to spit the drink all over Gioff's face, and then slammed the cup against the table, leaving a crater in the metal sheet. Gioff dragged his hand down his face, trying to get some of the beer off his fur. He was trembling slightly, but laughing all the same. Oh, I know this look.
All this time thinking you were a golem, and it turns out you're just a misshapen walking fountain.
Will you two quit acting like fawns?
Oh boy. The whole tavern stared at Adder's outburst. Once shame caught up to him, the row sat down again, heaving a long sigh. Aina and the completely soaked Gioff looked at each other absolutely flabbergasted. They both understood.
Well, color me surprised. I must admit that being lectured in maturity by Mr. There's a beast in my pile of hay was the last thing I was expecting today. Indeed, this is no time to squabble. It's been forever and a half since we 3 last shared an evening together. And if it was about me, this would be the last. So I really, really, really need to know. What on the face of Dakna is wrong with you?
I'm fine.
Bullshit.
You're as fine as muscular I am, my lad. Come on, you can surely tell your best friend about it.
Yep, her.
Sorry, Bard. But this is one of them things I can't tell anyone. Not even Aiden.
Geoff's eyes and lips narrowed until they both formed a line. Though wounded, he attempted to smile once more.
We'll go with fine then. Look at her, I know you're positively fine, but you've been just a little quieter than usual. As in, not blowing my eardrums quiet. Why are you so fine?
I just got a lot on my mind right now.
Yes, I noticed you spend your nights moaning.
What do you want me to do? I can't sleep when I'm worried.
Worried? Oh boy, you're gonna go blind if you keep worrying so much.
Oh my gosh! Oh gosh!
Don't go saying that kind of stuff in front of Aina!
Oh my gosh!
Why? Is she not the one for whose thy heart weeps?
Say what?
I'm going to give you the chance of your life here.
Fussy, I swear to God, you pee in the corner, you are going. You're out.
Do you want to sleep with Aina?
Oh wow. Adder got so flustered that he almost flipped the table. Aina suddenly lacked the dexterity to find any of her many weapons and the accuracy to wrap her hands around Geoff's neck.
Is that a yes?
It's a gosh darn freaking gazelle, alright?
Oh no. Oh no. Adder immediately dunked his face in the drink. Geoff's jaw fell to the ground. Aina forgot how to breathe. The bard proceeded to spill the contents of a cup all over the plate, banging the table with a fist and laughing over the top of his lungs. Aina's cheeks swelled up as she tried her best not to cackle.
Wait! All that melodrama just for some bard hot lass?
One second. Okay.
That ain't the...
This couldn't be sweeter, oh you're a horn-eater. This poor hobo was so mistaken, you see. Thought you'd cry for a golem, but you're just too wholesome.
Quit with the golem thing and listen just this once, alright? It ain't about me being a horn eater or not. I mean, it don't even matter. It's been a moon since she gave me the axe.
Wow.
But I needed to see her one last time, and something happened that night. Something I can't tell Aina or you or anyone. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about her.
Yes. I'm sure a lot of things happened that night, or didn't from the look on your face. You know, there's not a face unbeknownst to this bard. So tell me which Zell has been touching your neck.
Go tune your ood, Geoff.
Ood. It's ood.
Wow, touchy. Anyway, I'm glad to hear that you're a healthy deer with healthy obsessions that don't include lifelike dolls with a penchant for smithery. I'll leave you two friends to your business dinner.
You're such a rude. With that, Geoff got up from his seat. Instead of going back to playing his horrible songs, however, he headed to the back door, muttering things under his breath all the while. Aina's eyes finally drifted back to Adder. He turned red like a tomato.
Geoff, am I right? That bard's 2 straws shy of a hay bale and only half as smart. Sorry, boss. I need a moment.
course, Aina couldn't care less about Geoff's problems or any requests for privacy. She was only concerned about Ada's well-being, and by well-being, I mean apparently questionable love life. Ada looked her way again. Aina's lip trembled, but she managed to keep a straight face. She tapped the cup, trying to remind him that it was there, and that she still very much wanted him to drink it.
Sorry, boss, but I really don't want it. Beer just don't taste the same anymore.
Aina's eyes were immediately drawn to the cup Ada pushed into her hands.
You ever tried wine, boss? Like, for real grape wine? It's so good. It's even better than the mead we got back in the prairies. Just a few nights sipping grape juice and I'm darn spoiled rotten.
Aina stared at the foam edge, and the foam stared back. Would she really get an indirect...
Aina?
She's not paying attention. Huh? Aina looked up again, somewhat startled. Her gaze locked with Adder's. Adder gasped, bracing himself for something. The boy leaned in closer, still fixing his eyes on Aina's. She didn't understand what he was trying to do, but he was managing to look really dumb while at it.
Darn it! Darn it all to oblivion! I really thought I did the thing this time!
The thing? What thing? Eat horns?
Boss? Boss, what are you laughing about?
Aina shook her head vehemently.
Horny.
And then her face met the table, laughing hysterically.
I knew it! I knew it! I knew it! I knew it! You just wanted to get me all drunk to hear that! This is why I didn't tell you anything! I knew you'd just laugh at me!
Oh. What a bold assumption. Aina, making jokes at the expense of others' inclinations? Never. Okay, maybe she called Geoff a horn-eater at any and every occasion, but that was a totally different matter. She'd never call Adder a horn-eater. Probably. Aina considered how very much not at fault she was as she shifted awkwardly in her seat, making the bag of coins tinkle. Of course! Aina held out a coin for Adder to see. His eyebrow twitched a little.
You can't buy my forgiveness!
She flicked her fingers, revealing 2 shiny Dorus.
Alright, maybe you can.
Oh. She opened her palm, revealing a few more coins, and then tapped on her forehead.
3, 4, 6 Dorus for my thoughts? I don't know. It's really too personal to...
The purse tinkled again, and she eagerly slammed it against the table, almost breaking both. Oh, take all the money, I want to know!
You gotta promise me that if I tell you, you won't laugh at me. For real. Look at me, ma'am. This is my serious face. You promise?
All that money and still making demands? Aina promised herself that she would at least make an attempt.
I'm a gaze reader.
I know it's true. Oh, God. A what? Huh? He looks so proud of. I'm a gaze reader. She's just like, what?
I can read minds.
Come on, I am the gaze reader. I can read minds. Now he's starting to sound like a freaking. An attempt was made.
Darn, you got me! I really thought I could fool you this time around, but nope.
Oh.
You're just too smart for me, boss. Here, take your money back. My pa raised a liar, not a thief.
Oh. Adder took his cup to his mouth, drowning his laughter in the drink. Incapable of controlling his strength anymore, Aina patted Adder's back, which made him drop the drink all over himself.
Oh, not the cape! Darn it! I just washed it last moon!
Ugh! Ugh! Oh. Wait. Those weren't on him. What? Earlier? Adder lifted the hem of the rag only he could refer to as a cape, trying to determine the extent of the damage and revealing something that definitely wasn't beneath it before. A burn? Aina reached out, attempting to touch the strange mark on Adder's chest. The boy recoiled immediately.
Hey now! This ain't no place to get all touchy-feely, boss. We're in public.
Eulagrab would have argued that getting all touchy-feely was just as bad in private, but Adder never quite minded Aina invading his personal space when no one was around to tell her father. It was, nevertheless, a very strange thing to say for a boy that kept stepping over the line and hugging his boss, no matter the situation.
Oh, how am I ever gonna clean this?
Quite easily. All you have to do is rub the fabric with some distilled alcohol. Leaving it in salt water overnight could also do the trick. Believe me, I am an expert when it comes to getting liquor stains out of my clothes.
Please tell me this is like a cameo where somebody just... that we never see this person again, because that would be hilarious. He could totally stay in the story, but if that was it, that was going to be awesome.
Just gotta give it a good rinse at the beach. Got it. Thanks for the tip, sir. Do you need anything else?
Indeed, I do. I could not help but notice that fine example of Bahan craftsmanship accompanying you. I am beyond impressed by its degree of autonomy. And just look at the expressiveness in its eyes. I could swear that I saw a tear in them.
Barhan, what now? I don't know any witches. What are you going on about? Do we even know each other?
We absolutely do not. You may call me Berbeth if you must spend your breath discussing anything other than this beauty. Oh, that's good. Porcelain could never be so pearly. Gods above! Is that alabaster?
Goodness gracious. Adder and Aina shared a confused look while Burbis kept rambling.
Is he hitting on you?
I don't know.
However, the almost total absence of a snout and that triangular nose shape do not seem to align with the heavily embellished idea of the Ekain held by the Rice of Sanctuary. A fawn, perhaps? No, of course not. Eyes so detailed, roundish shapes and a small mouth. Oh, look at that blush covering the nasal area and the cheeks. The very expression of femininity. Oh, ho, ho. Undoubtedly unique.
Oh boy.
Darn right he's hitting on you.
Oh gosh.
Of course, the Safi may have had a twisted sense of humor, shaping their servants like us, but they had their own moral standards. My point is, I never expected to see a golem with female features. Could I somehow convince you to part with it?
Oh man, Adder's gonna be pissed. This was a given. She was gonna be pissed, but Adder's gonna be pissed.
Oh, my dad! It even talks! How did you make it do that?
She, sir. Aina's a she.
Yes, I said as much. Wait, what are those spikes between her teeth? Some sort of defense mechanism?
You could very well might be right, Joe. Ugh, I have to confirm with Sandra what race she is, or species she is. Burbiz pulled Ana's jaw open with his left hand, trying to get a closer look at her fangs. Oh my gosh, she's gonna bite his finger off. Luckily for all of the involved, Adder pulled Burbiz's hand away from Ana's mouth right as her jaw snapped closed.
Ooh, an automated shutdown function with a timer for protection in the inner workings of the artifact. Oh, how fascinating!
I don't like this guy.
Have you lost your marbles? Don't go sticking your hand into people's mouths, you creep!
Why, I would never! Oh, huh. You are talking about the golem, are you not?
Ana is not a golem!
Indeed, this is not a golem. This may very well be the golem. And I am very much willing to pay accordingly, I assure you. But to elevate it to the status of person.
Oh boy.
Holy horns, is my accent too thick for them northern ears? Ana is a doe! A doe!
Are you certain about that? I do believe I look more like a doe than she does. If you would be so kind as to ignore.
Oh! So you're one of those does that saw off their horns?
You could have been a fair deal subtle about asking that question. Yes, I file my claws for better accuracy. Yes, I lost my horns. But I am a man. You are no less a deer for having lost an eye, are you, sir?
I get the feeling you're mixing wheat with chaff here. But I ain't gonna judge nobody for getting touchy about their horns. Sorry, Mr. Burby.
Oh, worry not, friend. Truly, it is not the individual to be blamed, but a society that places unnecessary emphasis on weaponry and traditions from an age of intellectual darkness.
What do you want, Winnie? Come here, kitty.
Here, here. I get so much grief for having small horns. But I says to anyone that looks at them wrong, you got a problem with them horns? Because I should be the only one worried about my horns.
I need to go to bed. This has been great. Oh, my emotions are completely tied up in this, Sandra. Thank you so very much. This is awesome. I like this a lot. This is fantastic. This is really good stuff. Thank you, Joe. I even had somebody on Mixer in here for a little bit. I just need to figure out what to put it as on Mixer. Because maybe we finish tomorrow and start a new round. Actually, no. Finish tomorrow, and if we finish... Try to finish tomorrow. If we finish tomorrow, then I will play something else. But until then... yeah. Until then, have a good night. I will see you on the morrow, my good sir. Ciao.